Welcome to you, the listener, to a brand new deep dive. I want you to imagine packing up, moving down to this picturesque coastal town in Baja, California Sur, Mexico.
Right, like the world-class wind sports hub down in Bahia de la Ventana.
Exactly. And the dream was always, you go down there, you teach some kiteboarding, maybe manage a few Airbnbs, run a couple of boat tours.
And do it all under the table, basically.
Yeah, a few years ago, you could totally pull that off. It was this, laissez-faire Wild West frontier. But in 2026, that is officially dead.
Oh, it is completely over. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality now is total asset seizure or getting deported just because you paid a buddy on Venmo to fix your roof.
Which sounds wild, but that's exactly what we are getting into today. We've got a really fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive.
Yeah, we're looking at the comprehensive OOTO, or out-of-the-office investigation, right?
Yep. Plus the 2026 regional regulatory compliance briefings, the Desierto Azul safety protocols, and the Agua Amarga stewardship charter.
A lot of ground to cover.
It is. But our mission today is to extract the really critical takeaways from these 2026 mandates. We're going to figure out how this hyper-local coalition of Mexican ejidos, fishing cooperatives, and federal agencies basically rewrote all the rules for foreign service providers.
For tourists and locals, too.
Right. We're going to explore the shift to what they are calling active enforcement, the protection of an actual acoustic sanctuary, and, why respecting the law is now just the absolute price of admission. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Well, to understand the new environmental and safety rules out on the water, you really first have to understand the massive socioeconomic shift that happened on land.
Right, because the locals basically just reached a breaking point with the shadow economy.
Exactly. The investigation calls it the expat bubble. You had all these foreigners coming down on just regular tourist visas, but providing all these unpermitted services.
Yeah, kite instruction, house sitting, property management.
And they were getting paid via Venmo or Zelle directly to their U.S. or Canadian bank accounts.
Completely bypassing the SAT, which is the Mexican tax authority. And, for a long time, expats just thought of this as innocent hustling.
Like a victimless crime.
Right. But it wasn't. The economic displacement for local Mexicans was severe because the locals, they have to pay taxes, they have to pay into IMSS, which is the Social Security system, and they collect that 488 peso Embrace It tourist tax.
So the foreigners were just drastically undercutting them.
Exactly. It was incredibly unfair. So in 2026, the government didn't just ask nicely, they cracked down hard.
Yeah, I read about the 90-10 rule in the briefings, which means 90% of a company's workforce legally has to be Mexican nationals, right?
Yes, but the real kicker was how they actually enforced it. They introduced the SQL portal.
Wait, I want to ask about this. This is like a government-run app for anonymous whistleblowing.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it completely changed the psychology of these beach towns. Because before, you didn't want to make an enemy of your neighbor.
Right, it's a small town.
Exactly. But now, with a few taps on a phone, any frustrated local competitor can just anonymously report an unregistered kite school directly to federal authorities.
Wow, and the fines are not a joke. The sources said they exceed 100,000 Mexican pesos.
And that's just the money. They do immediate administrative detentions and then deportation. They take your photo, verify your addresses, and put you on the registry of identified offenders.
That's the part that blew my mind. They share that registry data with consulates to actively flag your passport.
Yeah, you get banned from re-entering.
But, I have to push back a little here. Looking at how the SAT uses AI-driven tracking for PayPal and Venmo, plus this SQL portal, it feels like a digital dragnet. Is this really just about collecting taxes, or is the government using tax law as a weapon to intentionally burst the expat bubble and just force foreigners out?
Well, it's a fair question, but I'd argue the goal isn't just exclusion. It's about requiring symbiotic benefit. The system is designed to filter people out, sure, but specifically the ones who extract value without contributing.
Right, like raising the financial barriers.
Exactly. Residency fees doubled, and they tied solvency requirements to the UMA, which is Mexico's official economic unit of measure.
So it scales with inflation.
Right. It prices out the casual, seasonal backpackers trying to scrape by illegally, and ensures that the foreigners who do stay are actually invested in the local tax base.
And the liability for homeowners is wild, too. If you hire an unpermitted foreigner to clean your pool and they get hurt, you don't have IMSS coverage for them.
Yeah, and you could face property liens or total asset seizure. You can't just hire a guy from the bar anymore.
So this intense push to reclaim the economy, it actually stems from a much older claim to the land itself, right?
Yeah.
From the Mexican Constitution.
Yes. What's fascinating here is the legal power of the ejidos. Under Article 27 of the Constitution, the local ejidos like Agua Amarga, Los Planes, La Ventana, they hold sovereign power over their communal lands.
So it's not just like a neighborhood watch.
Oh, not at all. Their internal rules are registered with the National Agrarian Registry, which means their community votes become legally binding federal mandates.
And they're using that power to basically ban extractive development. No more golf courses draining the aquifers.
Exactly. The new standard requires 100% water autonomy. Plus, developers have to put up a 10-year resource management bond in escrow.
Just in case they go bankrupt and try to cut and run.
Yep, it's brilliant. And they do this because they view the land as a trust inheritance from the ocean people.
The parakeet, right.
Right, they were this ancient culture of elite deep-water divers in the region, and we have bioarchaeological proof of this. They found these long skulls in the dunes.
The hyperdolichocephalic skulls, the briefings called them.
Yes, exactly. But the crazy part is they also have auditory exostases.
Wait, bony growths in the ears? Like surfer's ear?
Exactly like surfer's ear, but from thousands of years ago. It proves their deep maritime connection. And that leads to the Cemetery of the Sea, which are specific sites in the dunes.
Sites BC 111 and BC 114.
Right. Whenever they find these secondary bundle burials painted with red ochre, it triggers a legal kill switch.
A kill switch, meaning it permanently halts any real estate development there.
Irrevocably. The red ochre stops the bulldozers forever. There is no negotiating or paying a fine.
It's basically a cultural tripwire. But, speaking of culture, I want to push back on this one thing in the briefings. They talk about geographical integrity, specifically the bay's name.
Ah, yes. Ensenada de Muertos.
Right. The rules say there's an absolute requirement to use the historical name, Ensenada de Muertos, and that using the old developer name, Bahia de los Sueños, is a huge red flag. But wait, so if a foreign kite school puts Bahia de los Sueños on their Instagram, are they really going to get targeted by inspectors just for using a marketing name? That seems kind of crazy.
I mean, what's fascinating here is that language really is territory for them. Sueños was an artificial name created by a failed extractive real estate project to make it sound nice for foreign buyers.
Bay of Dreams instead of Bay of the Dead.
Right, so using Sueños signals to inspectors that you are totally disconnected from the local culture. It proves you haven't done the work to earn your social license to operate. If you don't even know the true name of the beach, inspectors assume you probably aren't paying your taxes either.
Oh, wow. Okay, that actually makes total sense as a filter. And this fierce protection goes right into the water, too. They turn the Cerralvo Channel into an acoustic sanctuary.
Yeah, driven by the Agua Amarga model. Local families like the Luceros, the Geraldos, and the Greens, they transition from commercial fishing to highly regulated ecotourism.
And they created the 2026 Orca Management Plan, which is super strict. Only 50 regional permits exist, and active GPS tracking is mandatory.
Well, they have to protect the 20 to 22 eastern tropical Pacific orcas that live there. And acoustic silence is a literal physical resource those orcas need.
Because of the Mobula Slam, right.
Exactly. The orcas heard thousands of Mobula rays against the shores of Punta Arenas. But to do that, they need clear echolocation. Any noise from boat engines disrupts their hunt.
And it's working. The sources point out that the 2026 orca calves show a total absence of peanut head.
Yeah, peanut head is a depression behind the blowhole that shows severe malnutrition. The fact that the calves don't have it means the acoustic sanctuary is a massive success.
But the orca standard rules for boats are intense. There's a strict 16 boat cap. And if you are within 50 meters, your engine has to be in neutral.
Plus, you have to watch out for the humpback whales.
Right, the interspecific altruism, where the humpbacks act as guardians, using their massive pectoral fins to disrupt the orca hunts and protect other species.
Yeah, and humans are strictly forbidden from interfering with that dynamic.
Which is incredible. They're like giant ocean bouncers. But I do have to challenge one rule, the 15-minute curiosity rule. I get the 16 boat cap, but how on earth do you legislate curiosity in a wild apex predator?
It comes back to the engine neutral rule. By shifting to neutral at 50 meters, the local captains basically turn their pangas into floating logs.
So they can't chase the orcas?
Exactly. It completely removes the chase dynamic that you see in bad ecotourism. You don't pursue the animal, you wait. The 15-minute rule means the interaction is entirely dictated by the animal choosing to stay near you. Once it leaves, or 15 minutes pass, it's over. It keeps their cortisol levels super low.
That is such a smart way to flip the script on wildlife tours. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because you have this channel full of apex predators and giant whales, but it's also a high-energy wind corridor.
Yeah, with deep currents.
Right, and you've got humans out there kiteboarding and foiling. So protecting the wildlife means nothing if the humans are a constant danger to themselves.
And a massive drain on the community's resources. That's why they created the Desierto Azul Protocol, overseen by the Regional Maritime Safety Council.
And there was a specific event that triggered this, according to the briefings, the February 24, 2026 emergency.
Yeah, 4 sailors, including a group leader, went out and just completely failed to report their return.
Which triggered a huge, unnecessary search and rescue response, right?
Exactly. Local fishermen burned their own fuel looking for them, the Mexican Navy was deployed, and the sailors were perfectly fine. They just didn't check in. Now, those 4 are permanently suspended from launching at Punta Arenas.
Wow. And that led to the float plan system and the 30-60 rule.
Right. Now, you have to log a float plan with a shore contact. If you are 30 minutes late, they have to try and verify your status.
And at 60 minutes.
At 60 minutes, a community search triggers. But they use local panga captains as Tier 1 responders first, because they know the currents better than anyone before they call the Navy.
And the mandatory tech is serious now. You need a VHF radio on Channel 16, a Garmin InReach for channel crossings, impact vests, and helmets for foilers.
All based on actual federal workplace safety standards, just applied to the ocean.
But the disciplinary matrix is what I wanted to ask about. The orange card gets you a 7-day suspension. The red card, for gross negligence or harassing wildlife, gets you a 30-day or permanent expulsion. But the yellow card, it says if you have a safe return but you just forget to close your float plan, you get a warning and a mandatory $50 donation to the local safety fund. I mean, paying $50 because you forgot to text your friend that you landed safely, that feels incredibly strict for a vacation town.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the concept here is corresponsabilidad, or co-responsibility. A false alarm isn't just an oops moment down there.
Because it pulls resources.
Exactly. It drains the volunteer fishermen's time and fuel, and it pulls the Navy away from actual emergencies. When you are negligent, you erode the whole community safety net.
Ah, so a $50 donation is basically a cheap lesson in not crying wolf.
Precisely. And speaking of respect, there's also the absolute rule of panga priority. Wind sports athletes have to keep a 50-meter buffer and always yield right of way to traditional fishermen.
Because you yield to the people whose ancestors defined the waters.
Exactly.
Okay, so to bring this all together for you, the listener, whether you are running a business, teaching kiteboarding, or just taking a boat tour in Bahia de la Ventana in 2026, you have to be in total alignment with the law.
Yep, the era of the digital nomad operating under the radar is completely over.
Legitimacy, respecting the ejidos, and actual environmental stewardship, that is the only currency that matters. So whether you are planning a trip down the Baja Peninsula, or looking to invest, or just fascinated by the law, this deep dive shows that preserving paradise requires teeth. It's a legally binding lifestyle now.
It really is. And, it leaves you with a pretty profound question to mull over. If this hyper-local, indigenous-led regulatory model actually works to prevent the gringofication and environmental collapse of Baja, could this exact playbook become the new global standard for every over-touristed coastal town in the world? I mean, what really happens when locals finally take the keys back?
Man, that is a fascinating thought to end on, because maybe a heavily enforced, community-led system is the only thing that actually keeps paradise from being paved over. Thank you for joining us on the Steep Dive, everyone. We will catch you on the next one.